Illustrator project, we're going to be creating a logo and a set of stationery from a specific illustration. The final product that we're going to have as far as the stationery goes, let's see if I can show it to you quickly, there's going to be a letterhead and also there's an envelope. And then we're also going to create a series of logos. One will be a full color, one will be a two color, and the final will be a one color from the illustration that we create. And in this one we're going to play around with modifying some of the fonts. So let's jump in and do this. You will need to download the Cafe Identity Package project number 3. And we're going to be working with this lemon JPEG. We're going to do an illustration of this lemon JPEG once it decides to open up. There it is. So to get started, let's jump into Illustrator. We'll go up to File and make a new document. This document needs to be letter size, and we can give it the name Cafe Logo. We'll keep everything else the same, working in CMYK. We really don't need to worry about bleeds or anything else. We'll say OK to this. The first thing we need to do is to place our image into our work area. If your work area is kind of messed up like mine, let me give you a tip. You can always go up to Window. Come on. Down to Workspace, and I'm going to reset the essentials. And this will put everything back off to the side so I can use them or get rid of the ones that I don't need. Okay, so to place our image, let's go to File and Place. We need to locate that JPEG. It's on my desktop. There it is. Oops, this is the wrong folder. Back to my desktop. The lemon JPEG. When you select the lemon JPEG, be sure you choose Template as your selection. And we'll do Place. And this is going to place your image right in the center of your work area. Remember, if we open up our Layers panel, we can see that the template layer is on a layer by itself. I'm going to unlock it, move it towards the center of my screen, and I'm going to double click on my template to open up the layer options and turn off dimming. So it should look like this as we work. Let's lock it down again, and all of my drawing is going to be done in layer 1. The first thing the book is going to ask you to do is to use your pen tool with a one-point stroke to draw the outline of this. So we're going to set our fill color to none, and our stroke color needs to be black. I'm going to do that up here. Black, and set to 1 point. Grab your pen tool. This is the easiest tool for doing the drawing. Command and the plus sign to zoom in. And to draw off the outline, give yourself a starting point. I'm going to start right up here at the top. One click. And remember, we can click off to the side, hold down Option, and then give it a curve. Then click again. Hold down Option if it's curved just a little bit. Maybe not enough. Or I can click and drag and make curves on the fly. But for me, I kind of like the Option method of clicking and then dragging. It doesn't have to be perfect. If yours is off by just a little bit, that's okay. But my goal for you is for you to strive to use as few points as possible when doing this illustration. Just use the number of points that is necessary. See, I did this in less than 10 points. And there's my outline. I'll give you another tip. If you need to straighten out any corners, there is a tool. It's hiding underneath your pencil tool. There it is, called the Smooth tool. You can go over little edges like this, and that'll smooth out those particular corners. Alright, I've got it done. The next thing we're going to do is to fill it in with the color of this lemon. So I'm going to use my selection tool to select it, then choose the eyedropper tool, and click anywhere inside to pick up that particular color of the lemon. The next thing we're going to do, we don't want this to be a solid fill color. We want to create a gradient mesh. This will allow us to pick up multiple colors and place them into our object. To create it, go to Object, down to Create Gradient Mesh. The book's going to have us type in 8 rows by 7 columns. We'll keep everything else the same. If you turn on preview, you can see what that will look like. Now yours may look a little bit different, but for the most part, it should look something like this. When we say OK, we can go into our working mode. Now to fill in each little point is going to be kind of tricky, so bear with me when I show you this. Right now I've got my eyedropper tool, and if I select my direct selection tool, the white arrow, and then select my eyedropper tool again, watch what I can do. If I hold down my command key, I can swap back and forth between my direct selection white arrow and my eyedropper tool very quickly. So when I hold down command, I get my selection. When I let go, I get my eyedropper tool. This is going to be key for selecting individual points and then individual colors. The next thing I can do is go over to my layers, and instead of turning off the layer, we're going to hold down command, and click on it. And you can see my eyeball turns into an outline and the artwork turns into an outline. Now comes the fun part. What I'm going to do is hold down command, click on an anchor point, let go, and click on a point that's beside it. And I've colorized that point. Let's do it again for this one. Command, select the point, let go, and click next to it. Command, click, let go, and select next to it. Command, click, and then select. All I'm doing is going back and forth, hitting command, and then picking up the color. Command, click, and then finally this one and click. Let's do one more row. Command, let go of command, click, command, let go. Command, click, command, let go, and the last ones. Command and select, command, let go, and select. To see the progress that we've made, let's go back over to our layers, hold down the command key, and click on your little eyeball. You can now see that my lemon is starting to have shades and tints of color inside of the object that we created. It's picking up that local color. I'm going to pause my video now and go through each and every point that's on my gradient mesh, holding down command and clicking to do the rest of the points. It will take a little bit of time, but when you're finished, your object that you create will look very, very close to the actual photorealistic object that Illustrator is wanting you to create. So again, hold down command, just take it one row at a time, clicking each individual one. Shouldn't take you too terribly long, but eventually you'll get some great results. Just remember to hold down command and click on the eyeball, and so you can see your progress as you're moving along. Alright, I've skipped ahead, and now I've finished drawing off my lemon. Looks pretty good. If you need to go back, you can always go back in and reselect any area and pick up any color that you may think would be off or looks kind of awkward. Additionally, instead of creating a gradient mesh with the object create gradient mesh method, you can add rows and columns to your gradient mesh by using the gradient mesh tool, which is located right here. With this tool, I can click anywhere inside of my area, and it will automatically add on points. Now notice when I do that, however, it kept the same color that I had last selected. In this case, it was a lighter yellow. So you may want to pick up the color of that spot first. There we go. Then grab your gradient mesh and click inside of it. Let's go ahead and save our document, file and save. And since this is my first time, I'm going to save it to my desktop. And say OK once the options come up. The next thing to do is let's play around with some type and create some typographic font elements for our document. In our Layers panel, we're going to create a new layer down here at the bottom, and we're going to call this Type Layer. And everything we create will be inside of this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my other layers as well so I don't accidentally work on that particular point. The Type tool is found in our toolbox. It has a capital T. Just know that there are some other tools nested underneath it. Come on. And then sometimes it takes a little bit to load up. There we go. So with our Type tool selected, check out some of the options that we have at the top. I've got my different characters I can select, and when I click the down arrow, you get a preview of what each of the fonts may look like that are loaded onto your computer. You can also change the style of the font, if it comes in bold or italic, the size of the font. But there's also other styles. If I click on the word paragraph, it'll open up this panel, which gives me our alignment options, and even the word character will give me some more options up here at the top. With our Type tool selected, I'm going to go up here to the top area, and I'm even going to turn off visibility of my other layers so they don't distract me. And I'm going to click once to create a type, my insertion point, and type the word cafe. Now with it selected, I can highlight my text, and if I need to change the font, I can go up to the character up at the very top, start typing the letters A, T, C, and you can see it'll quickly load up all of the fonts that have or begin with letters ATC. The font that we're going to use is ATC Garnet Medium. There it is right there. And you can see it changes that font to that particular case. Now if I wanted to choose my selection tool, we'll go over here, get my black arrow, and I can click inside of my work area and I get a bounding box that's around it. This means that if I wanted to resize it, I can click on the bounding box, and I'm holding down my Shift key and I'm keeping it proportional to resize it. If you don't hold down your Shift key, it may get squashed or stretched, and that's something that we don't want to happen. We want our character to be roughly ½ inch tall, so about this tall is good enough for what we're working with. If I need it to be an exact size, I can always go up to my character panel, and this is called the hot panel by the way, and I can type in, say, 72 points, and it will go up this way, this height as well. If for some reason you scale it and it wasn't 100%, if you look under character, you can set your vertical or horizontal scale to be 100%, and then we'll set this back to be 72, and that'll put it the correct proportion as well. That's a good tip to know. The next thing I want to do is I want to bring the C and the A little closer to each other. With my selection tool, I can double click on any type and it goes back into typing mode. So that's a good quick shortcut. Place my cursor between the C and the A. We'll go back up to our character, and the distance between two characters is called its tracking or its kerning. And in this case, it's going to be the kerning that we're going to be setting. The kerning is found right here underneath our size. And we're going to set the kerning value to be -20. When I hit return, you can see the A gets much, much closer to it. Now if I was to do a larger value, or in this case a much smaller value, like -100, you can see it gets even closer that way. The -20 is what we need. The next thing we'll do is hold down our Command key and click off. That'll deselect our area. Then we're going to click below this area and type the word, lemon, L-I-M-O-N. You can see I typed it on top of it, so we need to grab our selection tool. I can hold down my Command key, quickly get my selection tool, and we're going to move it just below right here. What I'm really looking for is to line up that I and the F. Now another great way to make manipulations of my text is by turning it into outlines. Text is another form of vector graphics. And to do this, we're going to get our selection tool, select both the cafe and the lemon, go to Type, and choose Create Outlines. And this is going to break your text up into the individual vector points that we're used to working with for all of our vector graphics. Now when I do this, all the letters are going to be grouped together. So if I needed to move over, say, one character, let's say I wanted to move that N over, I can go into my layers, You can see they're both grouped together, and I can open up the lemon group. Clicking on this little icon will select just that layer, and I can use my arrows or I can use my mouse to nudge it over to be a little bit closer as necessary. If I wanted to get multiple things, I can click on the N through the I, and we can move all those over as well. Looks like I accidentally got the L, so let's do that again. Through the I, there we go. And I can move all of those over at once. We're going to select the L icon, and I'm going to click and drag until it's moved, until it's moving just below my I. And I also see that it's lined up with my A. The next thing I'll do is choose my direct selection tool, my white arrow, click at the very bottom of the end of the L, and drag that over, and you can see I've converted the L to go all the way across the word lemon. If I wanted to edit the I, however, in this case I want the top of the I. We'll zoom into that. The I is a compound object, so when I click on it to select it, I want to only work on the top part. So we'll go to Object, down to Compound Path, and Release. Now I can click on the top, and you can see it has been, allows me to only select it. I can move it around as necessary. What the book wants us to do is to round off this bottom edge, and there's a couple of ways we can do it. I'm going to move it down just a little bit so I can see what I'm working with. The easiest way is to use our little widgets that we have here. I can click on just this one widget corner and drag it up. That'll round off that edge. And I can also round off these other corner edges as well, clicking and dragging in. So that gives me this nice little leaf shape. If I wanted to point that even more, I can do that. Additionally, if I wanted to rotate it, we'll rotate it to kind of match what's in the book. And I think that looks pretty cool. I'll select the top of my F and get that to match the alignment of that as well. You can play around with this as much as you want. The main thing is you're getting it to look more customized. I've taken a font and I've created a custom font for this. The last thing we're going to do is get rid of our O, so let's click on the O and just hit the delete button. We'll go back into our layers, turn on and unlock my little lemon that I created, and use our black selection tool to move it and scale it down. I'm holding down my shift key to keep everything proportional, and then place my lemon inside of that particular area. We'll make it a little bit bigger to fill that up. So this will get you to the end of stage 2. Stage 3 will work on creating more customization for the rest of the logo. Oops, I do see one thing that I missed. Let's colorize the top of this I. I'm going to select the I, and we'll choose green in here. Let it be a green font. That looks much better.